Welcome to Lifted, a podcast where we talk about all things health and fitness for busy working mums and women who are trying to navigate their way around parenting, work and relationships whilst wanting to prioritize their own fitness and body goals. We'll explore ways to help you achieve and maintain a lean, strong and sexy physique that is essential for helping you carry out your day-to-day tasks without burnout. We'll talk about relationships, self-love, and even dive into the mindset side to help you shift your perception, change your paradigm from one of inability or lack of to one of pure abundance and endless possibilities to enable you live your best, healthy, and fit life, being the best version of you that you can be. I'll share my journey as a bodybuilder and talk about everything it's given me in terms of achieving a strong mindset and a will that's totally unbreakable. I am your host, Carol West, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome yet again to another episode of Lifted. On this episode I am going to be going deep into my emotional side and my feelings through going through prep, how I managed to get through it and what exactly was going through my head during my time on prep, and the different ways I managed to navigate through those emotions and how I really kept going even on the most difficult days. So without wasting any more time, I'm just going to start right at the beginning where I decided to compete. And as you know from my previous episodes, I have given you a rundown of how things progressed from when I started this whole journey, which started off really as a photo shoot prep, and then it progressed onto the bodybuilding side of things. So going into the bodybuilding, I really didn't know what to expect, as I've said before, and I really just wanted to see how much I could push and what I could achieve by getting my body to be pushed to those limits. Obviously, at that point, I had no idea how much of that it was going to take out of me or what sorts of things I'll be facing. Yes, I was listening to podcasts. Yes, I was doing my own research about things to expect and what things are involved throughout the prep, and ways of trying to manage yourself through the difficult period. But as I said before, nothing really prepares you for it, and it's one of those things that you've just got to do to experience it. And to see how you are going to cope with it and how far you can push. So initially, I was very uncomfortable with the whole dieting idea. This was way before I knew the exact ins and outs of bodybuilding as it is. It's just based on hearsay and what things sometimes you come across on social media and on the internet. But once I did my own research and found out what exactly it entails, I settled into the idea. And I think a big part of that was I was very lucky to get a good coach who has walked the walk many a time over, and she's come out a champion out of it as well. So she knows her stuff, and really she approaches it with as much wholesomeness as you possibly can approach it with, bearing in mind that the whole thing about bodybuilding isn't really very healthy for you, and it's not something that you can take lightly. It's something that you actually putting quite a lot of stress on your body, and before you actually decide that it's something that you really want to do, there's a lot of pros and cons to it. So for me, the dieting side was a scary bit because I don't really agree, I didn't think at that time, before I knew everything about it, that it didn't sit comfortably with me to put yourself through long periods of hunger and you're in a deficit for quite a long time, and also it's almost like you're limiting yourself to what you can eat and the amount you can eat. And coming from a place where I know what it's like to be hungry, I wasn't very comfortable putting myself through it intentionally. So those were my barriers to kind of not wanting to venture into that side, really, because yes, I had at the back of my mind, it didn't sit comfortably with me at all. But as I say, with having a good coach and having things explained to me in so much more great detail, and going into it and learning about it in great depth, then it did make sense, and it did sit well with me afterwards. Otherwise I would not have obviously ventured into doing it. So I looked at it from a different angle, rather than, oh, I'm doing this to keep hungry or to make myself stay hungry. It was really more like, how much can the body do with this amount of food, and how much can we manipulate the body to look a certain way with this amount of food. So I kind of switched the narrative on it. And then it sat right with me, because otherwise none of it made sense to me at all when I started out. And I always had that resistance, because there's a number of people who have always said to me, like, oh, you could do bodybuilding. Why don't you do bodybuilding? As they will do if you go to the gym quite a lot and you end up, creating a good physique. A lot of people, you'll find them starting to suggest, why don't you do bodybuilding? And I also don't agree with this side of things. Don't just do, or don't go into it just based on what people are telling you to do, because of how you look. Because the whole bodybuilding as a sport isn't just based on aesthetics. And a lot of people fail to understand that it's not just about how good you look when somebody looks at you, because ultimately they won't be there judging you, so they don't know what they're looking at. They're just looking at your aesthetics, and they can see you've got good delts, or maybe you've got a six-pack, and maybe you've got great legs, and they think like, oh, you can go and compete, you can step on stage, you look fab. But there's a lot more that goes into it, and there's a lot more um, um, energy that you have to put into it, and you have to really focus and zone in to be able to achieve the kind of look that is expected of you, to present a decent package on stage. You don't really want to go on stage not conditioned, because it stands out like a sore thumb, and there's nothing worse than you being up there next to girls who are really, really well conditioned, and you come in and you're not just holding water, you literally look like you've just not made any effort. It's not a good look. And the fact that there is photographic evidence and everything gets put on social media almost immediately, it can be quite detrimental to your mental health. Once you see yourself next to other people. And I mean, it's up to you at the end of the day, if you decide you're happy with how you look regardless, because essentially you don't really want to be focusing on how other people look. You want to focus on you and bringing the best of you to that stage. That's the first thing. Anything else you get, whether you get a placing or you win, it's an added advantage, because you just getting there to that stage is a win in itself, because not many people can do it. So yeah, there's that to consider. Just think like you don't really want to get on stage and just look out of place, because I don't think there's anything worse. Don't forget, you're bearing everything in front of everyone. There's nowhere to hide, like literally everything's out. So you really want to make sure that before you step on that stage and before you make that decision to go on stage, that you've thought about all these things and you've really thought through. Because these days I feel like there's a lot of people just who go into it because it's almost trendy, compared to the olden days where bodybuilding was actually bodybuilding, and it wasn't just something that you did because you want to be dolled up and go and show yourself off on stage. I mean, that's nice, but the essence of the sport itself is in getting your body to the best condition it possibly can for you to stand next to other people and be judged that way. And that's where the competitive side of it comes in. You want to compete against other athletes and see, okay, well, if I've gone in this time and I look this way, and I've got feedback from the judges saying I need to go away and work on this area and that area, then the task will be for you to go away and work on those given areas that you've been asked to work on, and then present a better package for your next show. Now, what you find that these days, people just go into shows year after year after year, and as well as that, as good as that is, and as exciting as that is, you're not really presenting anything different, because building muscle is hard. And even making those small improvements and adjustments takes time. So you doing it year after year or every 6 months, you're not getting yourself to a place where you're improving your look, or you're coming in much more different than you did on your last show. You probably will. I would say the difference that you would make in that short time, that amount of time, is probably just coming in leaner, because it's easier to actually lose the weight or lose fat, and come in leaner, than it is to build muscle. So if you do want to go in with a completely different look, it does take time. And again, I feel like people need to be aware of these things. You can't just keep battering your body year after year after year like this. And as much as it's your choice, at the end of the day, it's your body and you can do what you want with it. I would like for everyone who either is in the sport or is aspiring to take part in it, to have all these things in mind, that it's hard on the body, and doing it that frequently, you're not really doing yourself any favors. A, because you're not presenting anything different, and B, because it's not really very, very good for you. So yeah, that's as far as that goes. Now, when it comes to my own personal journey and the emotions I went through, it was quite varied, and it was very up and down. Some days I would wake up and think, like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I getting out of it? Why am I putting myself through it? And these were on the hard days, because you do start to question everything, and you do start to wonder if you've lost the plot a bit with everything and with life generally, if you've decided to put yourself through that amount of stress physically. But again, I just had to go back into my why, and my why was a strong why. My reason for going into bodybuilding is not just to test myself and see how far I can push my body physically, but also mentally. The mental strength it takes for you to go through prep and finally get yourself on that stage is incredible, and it's something that I wanted to get into and see actually how much mental strength have I got, and how strong and how bad can it get. And apart from that, also I have two pairs of little eyes watching me as well. My daughter and my son. My girl's 12 and my son's 10. So they are at an age where a lot of things that you do will be very impactful to them growing up, and you've got a huge influence in their lives at that age, because they're just coming into an age where they're becoming their own people, and they're developing their own attributes, and they kind of are getting to find their own way, if you will, of being. And so anything that you do and they're watching you, and they see you day in, day out, is always going to have an impact on them. And yeah, that was one of the reasons, like, I needed them to see what a strong work ethic can bring you, and what a change of mindset and a shift of that mindset can give you, and the self-belief and the self-confidence that it also gives. And all these are like great attributes to like feed it down to them, so that growing up they can actually look back and think like, do you know what, our mom did instill such great attributes into us, and we we saw her, we watched her in action. She wasn't just saying, because it's all very well and good you preaching things to them, but ultimately they're learning from what you're doing. So it's more of they're watching you and they'll do what you do, not what you say. So yeah, that was my biggest why going into it, especially after I went completely into myself after lockdown, and I kind of lost myself during that time, and it was hard for them to see that. So again, I just wanted to make them see that, things don't always have to stay the same. You always have that chance to like turn things around at any given moment, and it just takes the one day that you decide. You have to make that decision, and you have just to wake up one morning and say, like, this is that day that I am deciding to change the narrative, and I am changing my whole life basically. So it has to start from that decision, and that decision comes from you. Nobody else can come in and do it for you. You have to be the one who wakes up and makes that decision, and it only takes wanting to do something, and wanting to do it really badly, so that you're actually willing and ready to do whatever it takes for you to be able to turn your life around. And I can say that because I've done it. I'm here and I'm living proof that your life can change literally, like in the blink of an eye. If you put your heart into it and you really believe and decide that that's what you want to do, you can turn things around. You can always turn things around. There's always a choice, and there's always that chance and that possibility of being able to do things and doing them well, with the self-belief and self-confidence, and faith that things will turn around and work out for the best. So going back to standing on stage, that was a very frightening experience for me. And the level of anxiety I got just before, in the lead up to it, I used to have sleepless nights. Well, not entirely sleepless, but I used to, like, when I think about it as when I think about myself standing on stage, the thought of it used to petrify me. But the more I did my posing lessons and I got into it, it got better. But then on show day, everything just comes into one, and you just feel like you can't, well, I felt like I couldn't focus on anything else. And the anxiety was really bad, and the nerves were really bad. So really, you're not in an optimal position to go and showcase what you've actually worked hard for, which again is quite, yeah, it's a hard ask to, like, expect somebody to perform to their very best, especially if it's your first time. I mean, I've been through all these emotions. I know how any of you who are in the same boat today or looking to do it, I know what it feels like. But all I can say is you need to just breathe through it, and you need to remind yourself that you've put the work in, and the hard work is done, and this is now your time to, like, showcase it. And the world won't end, even if you don't place or if you don't do as well as you expect. You always have a chance to go again. The stage will always be there. There's hundreds of competitions every year, so it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I know it matters because it is an expensive sport. So you start thinking about how much money you spend to get yourself to where you have. You really want to do well so that you feel like it's worthwhile, or it's been worth you doing all that, because you're not just putting physical strains on yourself, you're also putting financial stress on yourself. So if you're not in a good place financially, again, you're wanting to think like, oh, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of it? But I would say, like, for me, the money side of things wasn't really something I stopped to think about, because I felt like what I was getting out of it was much, much greater than how much was going into it, money-wise. So you just have to believe that you will do well, and you have to think of it as a learning experience as well. Not saying don't have expectations of winning. Obviously, you have to go in there with the faith that you've done all the work and you will do well. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just who turns up on the day. You don't know what cards you'll draw that day. So, and again, what judges are going to be there on the day, what sort of look they're looking for. So, and how well you present yourself as well. I mean, you could present yourself well, and you could look very good, and then you'll just have somebody who maybe has more endurance than you have. So maybe if you're being taken through the rounds over and over again and you're tiring out and they're still holding their poses, it literally just goes down to that one thing. But it really isn't a reflection of what you've done or what you haven't done or what you look like, because you've put in the work, and your body looks as good as it could do. And that's all you have to go into the competition day thinking. You have to believe that essentially it's what it is, and you have no control over what the outcome is going to be. You can only control what you bring on stage, and you've done that. So if you go in feeling like you've done the best you could and you look the best that you could ever look, then you've got nothing to lose. You haven't lost in any way. So yeah, the way I navigated around my emotions was just to think of things like this and breathe through those anxious moments before you step on stage, because that's the worst bit, when you're lining up to go on stage and you can feel your heart going, and it's just like, oh my God, this is the time. It's just all emotions rolled into one, and it's really hard to explain. And then when you go on stage, the time just goes really quick. Before you realize it, you're off stage, and then you've gone back in for your routines, and then it's finished. And the greatest feeling, I would say, is coming off stage knowing you've done all you can do, and there's nothing more you could do, regardless of whether you've placed or not. It's just knowing that you did the best you could do. So for me, obviously, I placed in most of my shows. So the feeling was always one of elation and pride and joy, and just so much, so much happiness, and just the sense of achievement and the fulfillment you get from it is incredible, and it's something that I've never felt in my life. So the accolades that come with it, and the praise and everything, it's just, it's mind-blowing. You can see why people sometimes do it, because they live for that feeling. It's an incredible feeling. You're literally on a high for quite a few days after the show, before you calm down from it. So yeah, this is just going to be a short one, because I felt like I just needed to cover the emotional side of things through my journey. So I hope it's been insightful for you, and anybody who's looking to compete, or in the journey, or in the process of going through prep, I wish you all the luck. And keep these things in mind, and just know that all you can do is bring the best you can. That's the side that you can control. Everything else is out of your control. You can't do anything about it. Focus on you, zone in on you, regardless of who else stands up on the day. You just present yourself to the best of your ability and do the best you can on the day, bearing in mind all the emotions that are going through you, and how hard it is to actually hold the nerve when you're going on stage. Just think like, you've done your best, and that's all you can do. Okay guys, thanks very much for listening. I hope to come back on again and speak a bit more on the food side of things. I also want to cover a bit more on, so maybe I'll do another small one or a short one, just to cover the food side of things, and how the food is manipulated, and how all that is broken down, to give you that look at the end of your prep, right before you step on stage, because that's a whole new episode that I can't fit onto this one. So yeah, I'll be speaking to you soon, guys. Take care. Bye bye. And just before you go, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to my channel, so you don't ever miss any upcoming episodes. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Carol West Coaching. Are you interested in coaching or joining our team as a client? We offer photo shoot, body transformations, as well as bodybuilding competition prep packages. The team at the Elevate Health and Body Transformation Program are ready and waiting to help you achieve and maintain your dream physique. Whether you're looking to step on stage or just want to do it for yourself, you can send us a DM and we'll get you on the road to achieving a lean and fit physique. Bye for now.